Shadow football. Before we get started with the video, I'd just like to point out that since UEFA are extremely strict with the copyright, as demonstrated before when they took down this video because they didn't want me to show Renee Slegers having the game of her life against Barcelona last year, I'm going to be using still images along with footage from older games in an attempt to provide you with a complete shadow football experience. I myself, along with Renee Slegers, are both extremely disappointed, as I'm sure she would have relished the opportunity to shine on the shadow football channel, but UEFA clearly don't want content creators to grow the women's game, so here we are. Hopefully this kind of format and analysis will still hold its own weight. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, as I will look to cover the summer's Euros in this fashion as well. The year was 2007. Netflix began streaming content, MySpace was the #1 social media site in the world, Steve Jobs announced the very first iPhone, AC Milan got the Istanbul revenge against Liverpool in the Men's Champions League final, Renee Slegers was in the Arsenal Academy, Kim Little made her international debut for Scotland at 16, and the Women's Champions League final was still decided over 2 legs. Alex Scott produced this worldie as Arsenal lifted the UEFA Women's Cup, as it was known as back then, the last time they won a European trophy. Looking at Arsenal's recent WSL form going into this game, they were touted as massive underdogs as they shipped 12 goals in their last 3 games, leaving everyone wondering if they were really up for it. Barcelona must have been licking their lips at the sight of Arsenal's gaping defence as they scored a whopping 19 goals in the 3 games leading up to the final. So it's safe to say that not many people saw this result coming. So how did Arsenal battle their way to European glory? What went wrong for Barcelona? And what were some of the key areas and moments that led Arsenal to the promised land of Lisbon? Both teams lined up in their usual systems and personnel. Barcelona usually steamroll through everyone in Liga F, where teams normally just sit back and defend with 11 behind the ball. The last time Barcelona lost the game was the 3-1 loss to Real Madrid back in March, in which Madrid pressed Barcelona high up, stifling their build-up as much as possible, and eventually won the game through their aggressive high-line defense. So, Arsenal did this. Well, kind of. They did a version of this. Arsenal switched up their defensive tactics depending on where they are on the pitch. When the ball was in the opposition half, Arsenal was set up like so. Patri Guijarro has the ball here, which Arsenal allow her to do so, but they cut off all of her passing options. Mariona is blocking the passing lane to Putellas, Mornam doing the same for Aitana Bonmati, and Kim Little is behind to clean up if the ball does get there. Notice how high the defensive line is here from the Gunners, condensing the field of play. Barcelona usually start the build-up by giving the ball to Patri and then having her find either Putellas or Bonmati and keep building from there. But Arsenal repeatedly shut down those options for Patri. And if Putellas or Bonmati received the ball, they would be reduced to backwards passes as they were bereft of options going forward, just like how I'm reduced to using images to make this analysis video. Arsenal essentially laid traps for Barcelona to walk into, not pressing every single player, but choosing their moments to press the most dangerous players. Technically this passing lane to Putellas is open, but it would be a hospital pass as Mariona and Little are both right next to her, ready to pounce if she does get the ball. Arsenal did really well to nullify Barcelona's build-up in the first half through this defensive setup. However, what's really worth noting in this image is the position of Aitana Bonmati. Usually the Barcelona midfield would create a much more compact trident, giving Patri options to pass to, but Bonmati pretty much spent the whole game nestled in between the Arsenal midfield and defensive lines. The only reason I can think of for this is that neither Kim Little or Mariona Caldente are naturally defensive-minded midfielders. This gives Barcelona a much bigger window of opportunity to take advantage of a more possible defensive positioning mistake by those two, rather than if someone like Liavalti played. But unfortunately for Bonmati and Barcelona, Mariona and Little never slipped up. Bonmati is technically unmarked right now, but Arsenal are covering every single option available to Patri, that her only option here is to just pass it sideways to Mapi Leon. There were times where Bonmati dropped back to receive the ball and drove her team forwards, but I'm wondering why she didn't do that more often. Barcelona usually rip teams to shreds in the final third with their trickery, passing, movement, and impeccable timing. Not that I can show you here, but just look up Barcelona Femení highlights and you'll know what I mean. Their semi-final dismantling of Chelsea, the epitome of the Barcelona DNA, so carefully curated into La Masia and into their footballing philosophy. The two areas that Barcelona love to attack and create the most danger are these two areas. The space in behind, in between the centre-back and full-back, and the space in between the defence and midfield lines. Claudia Pina tucks herself in, drawing Emily Fox, which allows Mapi Leon to play a good ball over the top for Friolina Rofeu. She crosses the ball in, but Caitlin Ford gets back superbly to produce a magnificent block. And this one, where Claudia Pina again drifts into this space between Williamson and Fox, receives the ball from Alexia Putellas and tries her luck at goal, only for Emily Fox to produce a good block. Barcelona repeatedly tried to isolate Emily Fox, the woman who holds the title of the best skincare routine in football, using Claudia Pina to draw her out of position and then sending Rolfo in behind. But the Gunners were alert to it and dealt with it pretty well. Barcelona looked to attack around the edge of the box too, but found more joy out wide attacking the space in between the centre-back and full-back. So why didn't they look to attack down the middle of the pitch more? The answer is quite simple really. Arsenal didn't let them. In 2008, Manchester United played against Barcelona in the Champions League semi-final and won 1-0 on aggregate courtesy of the greatest miskick ever ingrained into my brain from Paul Scholes. Michael Carrick, basically the English Pachi Guijarro that was never picked for England, later revealed that Carlos Queiroz, the assistant manager at the time, carried out 2 gym mats onto the training pitch and placed them in between Rio Ferdinand, Wes Brown, himself, and Paul Scholes, and said, "Don't let the ball touch the mats," as this was the area Barcelona was the most dangerous. I have a sneaky feeling Renee Slegers knew about this story and set up the same training drills for her players to prepare for this game, as Arsenal did not let Barcelona into this area at all for the whole game. So basically, since I'm an extremely biased Manchester United fan, the 2008 Champions League winning team of Manchester United basically won the 2025 Women's Champions League title as well, which makes me feel a lot better about our FA Cup final loss this year. Like I said earlier, Arsenal changed their defensive tactics depending on where they were on the pitch, and if Barcelona managed to get past their press, the whole team would then drop back into 2 banks of 4, bog standard 4-4-2. This is the best way to combat Barcelona's intricate passing system and movement, as much like in primary school field trips, everyone on the pitch has a buddy. No one is left alone and players can double up on defense if needed. Arsenal kept a very compact 4-4-2 shape in defense and Barcelona simply couldn't find a way through. If they ever entered what I'm going to call the gym mat area, Arsenal would absolutely hound them and usher them out. Barcelona did manage to create a few chances out wide, but the final ball was always lacking. Arsenal created a few opportunities going forward, getting in behind the Barcelona defense a number of times, such as the Paredes own goal that was rightly chalked off for offside. The plan was to get the ball to Russo, have her drag a centre-back out of position, hold the ball up, and play her teammates in. But the passes Russo received were, how should I put this? Rubbish. The first time Russo actually held the ball up was in the 57th minute. Arsenal never created any clear-cut chances in attack. A few half chances here and there, and a few attempts from outside the box stinging the gloves of Katakoi, but nothing really too threatening. Until Stina Blackstenius came on. Barcelona usually like to push their fullbacks high up, which often leaves space in behind to exploit, and this is exactly the space Blackstenius likes to attack. She often gets criticism for not being the most prolific striker, often missing more chances than scoring, but what she's really good at is putting herself in a position to take a shot. Her pace here gets Mapi Leon into trouble as she forces Katakoi into a good save. Ella Toon's best friend Alessia Russo then dropped into the 10 position when Blackstenius came on. So the plan for Arsenal was to have Russo drop back even deeper to hold the ball up, play it off to a teammate, and then send the ball over the top into the wide channels for Blackstenius to chase. And Irene Paredes here gives the corner away. Mariona takes it, Williamson flicks it on, Onabatia heads it away, Alexia Putellas produces a horrible clearance only as far as Kim Little, and we are left with this picture, thanks to UEFA. Irene Paredes tries to give Stina Blackstenius a hug. Salma Parayuelo is watching the most iconic mascot of the 2007 UEFA Women's Cup, and Caroline Graham Hansen has her eyes on Beth Mead, much to the dismay of Viviana Miedema. As Mead makes her way to the edge of the box, Graham Hansen for some reason switches off and doesn't follow her, So Salma Parajuelo turns her attention to Mead, also to the dismay of Viviana Miedema, but doesn't go and cut off that option, knowing that Paredes has got Blackstenius covered. The ball goes to Mido. Graham Hansen and Parajuelo are a step too late to get there. Paredes forgets about Blackstenius and instead needlessly tries to block what she thought was going to be a shot. Mead perfectly disguises the pass through her body language, and she now has caught the attention of 3 Barcelona players, which surely sends Viviana Miedema into a fit of rage. Stina Blackstenius drifts out wide slightly and is completely unmarked. Mead gives the pass. Blackstenius just about controls it and rifles it into the goal past a helpless Katakoi. Unless you're commentating for DAZN, then Alessia Russo was the one who scored, because anyone with a blonde ponytail is apparently Alessia Russo. From then on, Arsenal proceeded to shut up shop, hanging on to this fragile 1-0 lead with everything they've got. Barcelona came at them with ferocity. Actually they didn't, to be honest. This was an uncharacteristically below standard performance from Barcelona. Their usual clever movement and decision making was nowhere to be found, partly due to Arsenal's relentless defending. Yes, they didn't create a clear-cut chance, but they didn't help themselves with poor attacking decisions along the way. Fridolina Rolfo has the ball here. The Arsenal defense is out of shape, but Payot doesn't notice this, so she doesn't run in behind, which is what Rolfo wanted. Later on, Rolfo went for the 50-50 cross to Graham Hansen instead of playing Bonmati in here. Bonmati has the ball on the right hand side here, then dribbles inwards and doesn't play Graham Hansen in for a potential one-on-one, and decides to shoot the ball straight at Steph Catley's face. Patry finds herself overlapping on the right and doesn't play a pass to any of these 3 of her teammates here. And just to remind you who they are, this is Caroline Graham Hansen, Aitana Bonmati, and Alexia Putellas, and instead cuts back the other way and loses the ball to Caitlin Ford. There were many other moments of poor decision making from Barcelona, which is not like them usually. Caroline Graham Hansen and Aitana Bonmati both had pretty mediocre games by their standards. But you have to give full credit to Arsenal, who produced a Herculean defensive effort to keep Barcelona out. After they went ahead, they defended very smartly. As a defender defending a one-on-one, you always want to react to what the attacker is giving you. On the flip side, the attacker wants to react to what the defender does. It's kind of like a whole move first little chess match between the 2 players. Because Barcelona were behind, they were always trying to dribble around or pass the ball through Arsenal proactively. So, the only Irish woman made out of vibranium, Katie McCabe here, just sat and waited for Ona Batlle to make the decision for her. Batlle plays a poor pass easily read by Steph Catley and she clears away. It wasn't just McCabe that never committed to any challenges. The whole team did this after they went ahead, letting Barcelona ask the questions and find the answers themselves. This is incredibly smart yet risky defending, committing to challenges until they absolutely have to, but also conceding territory to them, which is always a dangerous thing to do. But they kept Barcelona out. They did it. Something not many teams can say they've done. This was a performance of the ages, one Arsenal fans will remember for a long, long time. Special mention has to go to Steph Catley for stepping up at centre back when it's not even her natural position, and Frida Leonhardsen-Monum for emptying the tack defending from the front for her team. But this day belonged to Leah Williamson, who was an absolute monster at the back. Barcelona never got past her, and this was the best performance I've ever seen from her, ever. Williamson's story of being an Arsenal fan since she was a child, then joining the academy, then becoming a mascot in the 2007 final, to now winning it herself, is a story that many of us dream of having. Big players always deliver in big moments, and my god, did Leah Williamson deliver a masterclass in defending. The whole team performed as a cohesive unit, no one put a foot wrong, players willing to die on the pitch for each other, and this Champions League final win was so incredibly deserved. Few expected Arsenal to be the next English club to win the Champions League, but they believed it. They dreamt it, and now they are the champions of Europe.